to the chairman of the UN Security Council and the UN Secretary General, the Syrian Foreign and Expatriates Ministry considered the terrorist acts committed by the armed terrorist groups who are supported by some UN Security Council members, in addition to blatant funding and public arming of terrorists, including providing them with Stinger missiles, as unveiling the truth of what is happening in Syria and the sides responsible for terrorism. The ministry denounced the funding and arming of terrorist groups by countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Libya, Turkey, Britain, France and the United States, which make them, according to international law, accessories to the crimes committed in Syria. The ministry reiterated Syria's call on the Security Council to play its role in condemning international terrorism and forcing certain countries to cease their arming, funding and harboring of terrorist groups. A huge terrorist explosion rocked Al Wurud neighborhood in Damascus countryside. The blast, which happened in a residential and crowded neighborhood, left at least 10 people killed and over 30 injured. Some of them are in a critical situation. An army unit has cleared Al Sail neighborhood in Harasta and Damascus suburbs of the armed terrorist groups who had committed crimes against citizens and their properties. Among the terrorists killed were Abdullah al-Dahab, leader of the so-called Shabab al-Huda in al-Islam Brigade, Muhammad Adnan al-Kurdi and another terrorist called Muhaddin in the so-called Saif al-Islam Brigade. In Al Tadamun neighborhood in Damascus, the army engineering units dismantled a booby-trapped vehicle loaded with 100 kilograms of explosives and 75 kilograms of TNT in the trunk of the car, as well as an explosive device weighing 20 kilograms under the back seat, equipped with a remote control. The car had been parked in the vegetables market near Al Iskandaron school in Al Tadamun neighborhood in Damascus. In the framework of targeting national skills and qualified cadres, terrorists assassinated Dr. Muhammad Osama al-Laham, brother of the People's Assembly Speaker, in Al Thuraya area in Al Midan neighborhood in Damascus. An official source said terrorists shot al-Laham dead while he was on his way to work. Russia on Tuesday condemned the terrorist bombings in Syria, which hit a neighborhood in Damascus and another one in Hama on Monday. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman Alexander Lukashevich expressed Russia's concern over the rising terrorist activities in Syria, stressing his country's firm condemnation of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Lukashevich said that double standards in classifying terrorists into good and bad ones are just attempts to justify these barbarous acts, which cannot be interpreted as directed against military targets. Russia reiterated that the Syrian people are the ones who should determine their own future and not the international organizations or other forces. Addressing the 9th Asia and Europe Summit in Laos, Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said that the major task at present is in the way we can help the Syrian people realize this objective. He considered the situation in Syria as a source of concern. The same stand was confirmed by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who stressed that any change in Syria must be introduced by the Syrian people themselves without any foreign intervention. In a press conference with his Jordanian counterpart Nasser Joudeh in Amman, Lavrov said the Geneva meeting statement is the basis for a political solution to the crisis in Syria through dialogue among all parties away from any foreign intervention. He emphasized support for the UN envoy to Syria, Lakhdar al-Ibrahimi's mission. Lavrov warned that if the opposition continues its present policy, this means it is working on continuing the bloodshed in Syria. He also warned against the possibility for the opposition sides to possess chemical weapons, adding that there is information that they had already received 50 Stinger missiles. Lavrov called on all the parties to the Geneva Agreement to encourage all Syrian sides to conduct dialogue. Otherwise, those parties will be responsible for the bloodshed in Syria. Russian President's Special Representative for Mid-Eastern Affairs, Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov, has affirmed that there is no other way to settle the crisis in Syria except through political dialogue between the government and the opposition. In statements to the press in Amman on the sideline of the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's visit to the Jordanian capital, Bogdanov said his country is trying to convince the parties of the Syrian opposition to sit at the table of dialogue with the representatives of the Syrian government.